James LSC here from Sweet Science of Fighting. Today I have another breakdown for you, this time with Petr training at Tiger Muay Thai. Again, nothing against any of these fighters, trainers, anything like that. Just want to break down what I see with this training, what they potentially are trying to achieve with it, if it's something that you could use in your own training, if it is sound logically or not. And yeah, just if it's good, bad, or whatever my opinion is. So this is supposed to be a strength and power session for Petr. So starting with some mobility to warm up. Turkish get up.
Windmill. 2. Single leg remaining deadlift with the row.
Nice.
3. Pull through. 4.
Nice.
Get down. Alright, let's go. 1 on the right.
Nice. So I actually really like this as a warm-up. It's similar to how I like to program my warm-ups in a circuit fashion. And typically when I'm looking to do warm-ups in a circuit fashion, it's pairing a bunch of different mobility style movements or movements where you're not going to typically touch on during the main session. So as you mentioned there, this is preparing them for the session coming up. A lot of the times you may not be able to actually touch on some of these movements. So exercises like kettlebell windmills and single leg RDLs, things like that, they're probably not going to be considered your big rocks in your main training program, which is fine, which means you can add them in part of your warm-up if you needed to. If that was something you needed to address in your program, you can have that in your warm-up in a circuit fashion, so you still get to touch on it, and it warms you up and prepares you for the strength and conditioning session coming ahead. Now, looks like we're doing some hip aeroplanes with the kettlebell. Another really nice exercise, especially for strikers, to open up the hips, or even a little bit of rotation on that leg too. So this is a nice little warm-up you could add to your, your striking strength conditioning routine, MMA, even grappling to an extent, just so you have that range of motion. But it's good to get the hips moving externally, internally, under load, and be able to control that movement. So I really do like that exercise too, and I really do like this warm-up. I would run through something like this 2 or 3 times. Depending on how much time you have, I would even shorten it to maybe like 3 exercises. This could be 2 separate circuits, so this could be the second circuit now that they're doing, and the first one you could maybe pick 2 or 3 exercises out of that, and then you go through that 2 or 3 times. And you're touching a lot of bases, and all you need is 1 kettlebell to do it, which makes it even better, and a tiny bit of space. You don't need to go anywhere to get this one done. So yeah, this is really, really nice. Let's see what else we got. Okay. So let's like some glute bridges.
30 seconds.
Okay, so some glute bridge isometrics.
Same.
And pull off press. Okay, so it looks like it's an isometric circuit. So isometric hangs, 30 seconds on of isometric pull-ups at the top, isometric glute bridges at the top. Looks like isometric pull-off presses for the abs, and I think there's one more as well. So we've gone from the mobility style warm-up, split stance. Oh yep, holding the pull-off iso hold. That's nice. And then going into an isometric circuit, and it's all yielding isometrics. So if we're talking in the context of strength and power, we're usually talking about pushing or overcoming isometrics. So that's exerting maximum force against something immovable, typically from anywhere from 6 to 10 seconds. And that's developing the ability to produce maximum force, but it's also training the ability to produce that force quickly, which is typically what we want as combat athletes. Now, with yielding isometrics, which is these holding ones, you can still develop some pretty good strength and even some good muscle size doing stuff like this. However, it's not going to translate well into power development. It can have some good strength benefits depending on how you load them. But yeah, typically for power development, this is not something that you would that you would use that much, but it does serve its benefits. I see Petr is also wearing ankle weights throughout the entire session. I'm not sure why he's wearing ankle weights throughout the entire session, but we'll see how it goes. Okay, so now we're getting to some of the power exercises. So in terms of like the sequence of the exercises, it's actually quite nicely put together. The mobility circuit at the beginning, the isometric strength training straight after that, and then by the time you get to something like this, you're so good to go. You can basically pull this max power without even having to do any kind of warm up. Yeah, I do like the sled for power movements. Oh, looks like another circuit, is it? Okay, interesting. Okay, pressing, so that's this upper body strength movement. On the landmine, we'll touch on that in a sec. Yep, so just landmine press. Let's see what else we got. I think it's just landmine press with the sled, is it? Nope. Oh, nice walking. I just call this one a walking lunge rotation, even though it's not fully a lunge. But I love this one. I usually use this one in the warm up. So actually in the Sweet Science of Fighting programs, I've actually got the medicine ball version of that. Yeah, it's really nice. I've got the medicine ball version of that one in the programs as part of the warm up, and it's just about being able to stop and resist that rotation. But it's also about dissociating the upper and lower body, which is one of a key concept around strike. Well, I think most combat sports, to be honest, and even a lot of team sports with running, and it's the ability to have the lower body do something while the upper body does something else, and it creates a little bit of that lag time between the lower and upper body, which you see when striking. You see, if you actually listen to the previous podcast with Edward Baker on the Sweet Science Fighting podcast channel, he talks about as well that lag time with punching. You see the legs and the hips turn before the shoulder turns. And that little bit of lag, you see it exaggerated in sports like baseball with pitching. But that little lag, you can train that ability even better through movements like that barbell one. Even the medicine ball version works, but that barbell one's like a heavy one. Obviously, because the barbell's longer, more inertia to be able to stop as you rotate around. So you really got to turn on and be stiff to be able to stop that barbell, which is really nice. With the sleds, I really like the sleds for confidence. Full body, being able to pull with your legs, extend the hips, and then pull all the way back with the arms. There's no impact in doing it, so and there's no learning curve, like something like that. Like you could do this over doing Olympic weightlifting as an example to prepare for fights, because it's so, if you have the space and the equipment, it's so easy to do, and you can really give everything into something like this, versus when you're doing something like a power snatch or power clean, you really got to dial in the technique to be able to display that speed and power rapidly. Now with the landmine, I do like landmines as well. I am not going to say landmine is anything special. The landmine punch, throw, etc. is not anything special, but it can be a useful tool. And the reason typically you'll see, I think a lot of people use landmines within striking sports because they think it replicates a punch or replicates the strike, some kind of striking. But that's typically not why you would want to use a landmine. You typically want to use a landmine, one, if you want to do unilateral over bilateral pressing. Typically it works well. But most importantly is if you can't get overhead well because of mobility restrictions, or you have injuries that stops you going overhead, the landmine is the perfect tool to be able to do almost like an incline overhead press without running into those problems. And with a lot of athletes I've trained that have had or have shoulder issues, I'll put them straight on the landmine and they'll be able to press completely fine, because there's so many variations you can use as well. So you could do a standing like landmine press / punch that they're doing here. You can do it half kneeling, you can do it tall kneeling, you can do it two arm, you can do a split jerk or push press in those positions. So there's a lot you can do with those exercises with the landmine. So that was their power endurance work. So that's why they did it in a circuit instead of doing one at a time. So this is a pretty well put together camp. Week 2 into a 6-7 week camp. Yeah, it looks like a really solid session. So covering again, it was mobility, followed by isometric strength work, followed by a power endurance circuit, followed by just some jumping rope at the end, 5-10 minutes. Not so much that it's going to burn the fighter before they have to go do technical training or anything like that, or stop them from recovering the following days. I think in this, potentially, I don't know what the rest of the week looks like, so obviously bear that in mind when I say this, but potentially if this is going to be a strength power session, you may either want a stronger strength stimulus instead of those isometrics they did before. So something that could be some kind of overcoming isometric, it could be some kind of maximal strength lift, something that's going to touch on maximal strength versus those yielding isometrics, just as an idea. Or if it's going to be more of a pure power-based session, which just kind of seemed to look more like a pure power-based session versus being more on the strength side, it could be some kind of heavier power-based exercise initially, and then into that power endurance circuit. But again, it depends how the whole week is set up. This is only just a snapshot of one day in that week. But in terms of this compared to the other breakdowns we've done, this is light years ahead of some of the other sessions that we've seen. I mean, if you want to see some absolute horror, some absolute shockers, go watch the KSI breakdown. Go watch Devin Haney's breakdown. Jake Paul, to some extent, is interesting. And then obviously David Goggins and Tony Ferguson. Make sure you watch that one too. Because obviously a lot of people downloaded that video because they all had Goggins balls in their mouth, which didn't work well for them over the weekend. So make sure you check those out. But I'll see you in the next video.